All right, Miles, look, college football, there's a lot of action going on, a lot of big matchups this weekend. There's a lot of things to talk about, a lot of great teams, who's underrated, who's overrated, Miles. But there's one team that's not getting the attention they deserve. We're talking FCS now. We're talking the Princeton Tigers. Miles, we're going Ivy League, man. It's an incredible thing to talk about a team in Princeton. But guess what? This football team is undefeated, first in their conference right now, first in the Ivy League, but they're not getting the respect they deserve. And I know you got the specifics on that. Before I hand it over to you, Princeton fans, we want to hear from you in the comment section below. Look, this is a team 7-0. They're almost through their 10-game slate of schedule here. One heck of a season. Hopefully it finishes strong. We think it will. But we want to hear from you. Give us the MVP of this football team at this point in the year. Give us a guy who you really think stood out and had one heck of a season. There's been a lot of guys that have had a great year, but give us the one guy who you think is really deserving of the MVP. Let us know in the comment section below. But Miles, give us your thoughts on Princeton.
Yeah, Nick, this Princeton team, they look so strong this season. And I think it's, kind of underrated. I say kind of, they're criminally underrated for this FCS slate. At the time of filming, they're ranked 25th, okay? And there's a lot of teams with like 2 and 3 losses ahead of them. And I find that horrible, Nick, because this Princeton offense is averaging almost 30 points a game. The defense is holding teams. No team has scored more than 19 points on them all season. They've got one team, they shut Lafayette out to 2 points, Nick. So the defense is strong. The offense is rolling. They're going to finish out the end of this season very strong. They just have Dartmouth, Yale, and Penn, who I feel strongly that this Princeton team is going to come through and beat all of those teams. They look very, very, very strong, Nick, and I think that they deserve to be ranked higher than 25th, especially since they're undefeated and you have these 2 and 3 lost teams in front of them. This is the kind of thing where people riot about this kind of stuff, and that's why I want to kick up the dust. That's what I want to talk about. Is this Blake Stintrom led Princeton Tigers? They look really good, Nick. And I have another guy I want to talk about, and that is Andre Yosivas, the receiver from Princeton, who is an excellent athlete. He's all world. Before we get there, Nick, what do you think about this Princeton team? Don't they look really strong so far this season?
Well, it's one of those things. So, look, I played FCS football, right? I played in a different conference, but one of the things about it is the way they do the rankings. It's unfortunate, but they kind of focus on certain conferences, right? There's a lot of weighting into the Missouri Valley Conference. There's a lot of weighting into the Colonial Conference as like James Madison and all those guys, right? There's some conferences where for whatever reason the pollsters are like, yeah, those guys stink. We don't care about it. And the Ivy League unfortunately gets the short hand of the stick. And sometimes it's deserving, but this is not one of those cases because you brought it up. This is a complete Princeton football team. This isn't a team that's just skating by, winning close games on just in tight conference play. They are demolishing people on both sides of the football. You brought up the quarterback play has been excellent. They ran the ball pretty well at times. Their defense has been outstanding. And this is a complete football team all across the board. I think most likely they're heading to an undefeated season. I think they're overwhelming favorite to win the conference. And I'm really, really hope that the committee does everything possible to rank them high enough as they go through these rest of these games and hopefully get a high seed in the FCS playoffs because they deserve it. Because you brought up some guys that have 2 or 3 losses and they ranked higher just because they play in the Colonial Conference or something like that, which is just ridiculous because this is a really good Princeton football team. But you brought up this playmaker at wide receiver. What do you have on him? Because this is one of those guys. How many big playmaker can really elevate the status of a football team, kind of a highlight reel guy that can get people's attention.
Yeah, Nate. So we're talking about Andre Yosivas. This is
Yep.
Princeton wide receiver who looks extremely good this year. He's put up a lot of numbers, and Nick, that has put him on the FCS Walter Payton Award watch list. He looks very strong, and this is for people who don't know, is basically like the Heisman of the FCS. And I
Yep.
think he has a good chance to win this, at least not, if not this, maybe some receiver awards or something around those lines. But Yosivas looks really, really good on the football field, Nick. But there's something else I want to talk about, and this is like getting on to potential like NFL aspirations. One of those things that you look at in a guy, is he a good football player? Yes, he does that on the field. Is he a great athlete? And yes, and you might ask me, Miles, how do we know that he's a good athlete? Well, Nick, he has set the Princeton school record for the heptathlon. He has an all-time school record of 5,715 points, and he leads the country with that score so far for the 2021-2022 season. So this guy, incredible football player, incredible track athlete, I mean, he has a complete package. He's going to potentially be in the running for the FCS Heisman. This is a complete athlete, and I think NFL teams need to put on notice to look out for this guy, Nick.
Yeah, how many events is the heptathlon?
Like
Is is
7,
is
10,
is
15.
that how you get into the Ivy League? You have to know how many what hepta means, that prefix
Yeah, I
with the
think that's part of it is knowing what the event is the barrier for entry. So I wouldn't be really great at the
So it's not just a great
heptathlon.
athlete, he obviously knows geometry or whatever too, right? To know that. So yeah, no, all pluses for this guy. He's a special kind of athlete, special kind of player.
Yeah, no, he is a special player, but he's got great measurables too, Nick. He's 6'3", 200 pounds. He's from Hawaii, so that's pretty cool. But this season, 50 catches, 778 yards, 6 touchdowns
Yeah.
for a 15.6 yards per catch average. So I really wanted to shout out this guy. I think he's had a really great season so far. I think Princeton in general has a great season so far. And I am looking forward to see them clean up the rest of this Ivy League slate and potentially put themselves into the FCS playoffs and see how far if they could potentially make a run.